Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling an absolutely critical transition that pretty much every growing business is going to face at some point. We're talking about that monumental shift from relying entirely on a founder's gut judgment to running on formalized, secure enterprise-grade systems. So if you've ever felt the sheer growing pains of scaling a business, or, if you're trying to figure out how to lock down your information security while everything around you is just changing at lightning speed, well, you are in exactly the right place. Okay, let's quickly glance at our agenda for today. We're going to connect the dots between executive burnout, operational systems, and enterprise-grade security. So we'll start with the founder bottleneck problem, move right into building the operating system, and then tackle the security standards maze. After that, we'll cover choosing the right framework, applying a hybrid approach, and finally, auditing for true success. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the founder bottleneck problem. To really ground this concept, let's look at a pretty fascinating case study from World Consulting Group. Just picture this, a $28 million distribution company with 140 employees. On paper, they had an incredible year. Revenue grew by 22%. But there was a massive red flag. Their net margin actually dropped by 3 points. Why? Because every single dollar of growth brought unmanageable operational complexity. The company was still relying on exactly one person to decide what happened every single day. Every escalated issue, it landed on the exact same desk. Now, the founder wasn't necessarily failing to delegate. It was actually that the company was failing to operate without a single decision maker because there was literally no operating system in place to distribute the load. The whole shebang was essentially running purely on the founder's judgment. And hey, that works great when you're at $5 million, but somewhere between 10 and 30 million, it just completely breaks down. So, I want you to really ask yourself right now, is every cross-functional decision still routing through you? Or, if you're an employee, is it all bottlenecking at your CEO? When the founder is the bottleneck, execution without systems just becomes, well, expensive repetition. You start seeing symptoms, right? Like the founder not being able to take a simple 2-week vacation without the business immediately degrading. Or, say, new hires taking 6 long months to get up to speed because nothing is documented and literally everything requires a tap on the shoulder. Which brings us right to Section 2, building the operating system. So here's an operational blueprint broken down into 6 key domains. First up, decision rights, literally who approves what and when. Second is meeting architecture. We have to stop using meetings for endless status updates, right? Demand a decision or an action. Third is performance measurement. And actually, there's a great piece of irony here. One manufacturing company tracked 47 different metrics on a monthly dashboard, but when they were asked which ones actually triggered management action, they could only name 2. Just 2. The rest was just burning reporting labor. Fourth is departmental handoff points, which is usually where information goes to die. Fifth is capacity planning. This is crucial to curb those super optimistic estimates from department heads who just hate saying no. And finally, documentation. Now, you don't need a massive heavy manual for every single task. Just focus on the 20% of workflows that drive 80% of your outcomes. Moving right along, let's get into Section 3, the security standards maze. Now, there is a massive gap between a founder's informal judgments and rigorous enterprise risk management. When a company relies solely on a founder, risks are usually evaluated based on gut feeling. Do I trust this vendor, or does this server setup feel safe enough to me? But as we know from the International Journal of Information Security Science, modern society relies heavily on IT, and attacks are just becoming incredibly targeted and sophisticated. A staggering number of organizations try to assess risks but completely fail. Why? Because they lack senior management commitment, or they have completely disintegrated GRC efforts. That means governance, risk management, and compliance literally aren't talking to each other. You simply cannot scale a company if your IT risk management is just a series of informal, gut-check decisions. To bridge that gap, maturing enterprises turn to standards. Now, I know looking at all this alphabet soup can feel incredibly daunting, but let's break it down. Don't think of these as some monolithic burden. Think of them as specific tools in a toolbox, each with a very distinct focus. First, ISO 2701. This is your specification for an information security management system, or ISMS. It uses a plan, do, check, act cycle. It's really all about establishing the high-level management of your security. Then you have IDL 3.0, which views any IT effort as a service. It focuses heavily on IT service management, covering strategy, design, transition, and operation. And then there's COBIT 4.1. This one focuses explicitly on IT governance, defining IT control objectives to ensure your tech actually sustains the overall organization's broader strategies. So management, service, and governance. Distinct tools for distinct jobs. Okay, let's pivot to Section 4, choosing the right framework.
Instead of just blindly picking whatever framework happens to be trending on LinkedIn, researchers Walid Al-Hamed and Basil Mohammed adapted Simon's decision-making model to help organizations rationally evaluate their options. What this does is build a highly structured pathway, splitting the whole selection process into a decision phase and an implementation phase.
Let's actually walk through these 5 stages. Just a quick logical journey. First is the why, the intelligence stage. Like, what are your specific business objectives here? Second is what, the design stage, where you map out your alternative frameworks. Third is which, the choice stage. This is where you apply constraints, things like cost, required skill level, and business size, to create your shortlist. Fourth is how, the implementation stage. Are you doing this in-house or are you bringing a consultant? And finally, the fifth and absolutely most critical stage is outcome. This is monitoring and evaluating if the framework actually achieves your original goal. It's a fantastic model because it moves an enterprise rationally from identifying a security vulnerability all the way to monitoring a tangible working solution.
That leads us perfectly into Section 5, the hybrid approach.
This crucial point is perfectly demonstrated by a real-world case study involving Al Ali Bank in Jordan. So initially, the bank's management firmly believed that just getting an ISO 27001 certification would magically solve all their IT risk issues. Their major driver? Simply increasing marketability. It was essentially vanity. But when consultants actually applied that 5-step model we just looked at, they realized the bank's IT and information security entities just weren't mature enough. Applying ISO 27001 blindly would have been pretty much useless. So instead, they implemented a hybrid approach. They used ISO 27001 solely to establish the security organization and policies. Then, they brought in ISO 2705 specifically to conduct the actual IT risk assessment. Finally, they layered in COBIT to establish IT governance and align their IT activities with their broader business objectives. They successfully shifted the focus from mere marketability to genuine, robust IT governance. A real game changer.
And finally, let's look at Section 6, Auditing for True Success. This is exactly where the internal audit report comes into play. Think of this document as your ultimate reality check. An ISO 27001 internal audit report is a formal document that strictly assesses compliance. It has clearly defined objectives and scope, identifying exactly which departments were tested, and, most importantly, it breaks down the findings, very clearly indicating both your strengths and your nonconformities, and then offers actionable recommendations. Basically, this report serves as the absolute critical tool to measure whether your newly implemented operating system and those chosen security standards are actually functioning day to day, or if they just look really good in a fancy binder sitting on the founder's desk.
Wow, okay, we've covered a massive journey today. We went all the way from a CEO completely drowning in day-to-day approvals, through the architecture of solid operational systems, all the way to customized hybrid IT security frameworks. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. Is your company running on a system, or is it still just running on your judgment? Remember, true organizational maturity and readiness for scale requires taking that heavy lifting off the shoulders of individuals and placing it squarely onto robust, audited frameworks. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I really hope this helps you build a system that truly sustainably scales.